Yo guys, it's Upshatter here and welcome back to another episode of Space Engineers. And as you can see, today is special because today we're gonna talk about the new update that just hit and the DLC. And yeah, what it brings and if it's good or if it's not. So, let's talk about the update first. So, generally speaking, what you can see in this screen here is what comes new in the update. I'll go through these items one by one. And there's also a few things new in the update that cannot really be shown. Well, at least not right now. There is some performance improvements. There is a new scenario. I think it's called Standoff, which is a PvP-oriented scenario. There's also some AI improvements. There's also improvements for the third-person camera. So yeah, just a bunch of, nice improvements here and there. But let's get to the meat of the bone, which is new blocks, of course. All right, first we're going to talk about this, because this is interesting, and at first you might not be able to tell what's different here. I'm going to tell you. Wheel suspensions now have better improved, area that they block. These blocks back here, in the previous update, you could not have placed these. This would have been the extent of what you could place, because the wheel takes a certain amount of space that it blocks. But as you can see now that I'm hovering over the wheel, if you have it in your head, it actually blocks less now. So you can see I can actually place blocks like this. So you can get closer to this wheel. And also this gives me kind of hope that maybe in the future there's more blocks that you can almost place into each other. But yeah, it looks like they managed to make it so that this wheel suspension takes actually less blocks now. And you can make way more beautiful wheel wells and just make it a little bit more snug and look a little bit more, nice. I think is the best word. As you can see here, you can get really close with these half blocks. Now, you cannot place normal blocks, so it's not just like they cut out like a square and just made it so that you can place everything. No. You can just place certain blocks. It's very interesting. I wonder how they did that exactly, to be honest. And now that I'm looking at it, I'm actually curious what exactly you can place. If they made exceptions for certain blocks, or if they, is it a geometrical thing? Because you can place this one too. Very interesting. So yeah, maybe we'll figure more out as we go along. But yeah, anyways. Next thing that we can show is that in the assembler, in the production, we have a few more categories now, and they're a bit more neatly ordered. So that's just a quality of life improvement, which I totally agree with. That's a nice thing. Other quality of life improvements are actually also sensor detection of voxels, improved tooltips, and improved projectile ricochet. So, when you fire at a vessel, that visually the projectiles will bounce off of it and looks a lot better now. So that's cool. The next block we can look at is these rounded armor panels. So these are the round versions of these normal armor panels. So we now also get these rounded ones, which is nice. That's, it's just a nice little thing. You can now make these, I guess, some sort of igloo almost you can make with this now. Something like that, And they come in light and heavy armor. They also call in small and large grid variants, so that's nice. The next one is also a bit weird to show. Well, not that weird. You'll see what I mean. So these are our normal wheel suspensions. Just for your information, they are 2 blocks away from where you place them. With all of these. They now added short wheel suspensions, which, as you can see, well, actually, this one, oh yeah, the big one is actually 3 blocks, I believe. Yeah, the big one takes 3 blocks, and this one only takes 2. So yeah, they added these shorter versions, which can make for a bit more a compact build, depending on what vehicle you're going for, which is nice. So if you go to wheel suspension, you will see you'll have now these short wheel suspensions, and they also added these for the off-road wheels. Should you own that DLC, you will also get the short versions of that for free, which is nice. The next one I'm kind of excited about, new atmospheric thrusters. Let me actually add a reactor to this so we can see them spinning. There you go. So these are large atmospheric thrusters and small ones, and they come in 2 varieties. They come like squared, like this, or in like a D shape, kinda. I think it's called, the game calls it the D shape. And if we look down here, you still have this thruster element, or it looks like a thruster element. I don't think it actually produces flame. You can test that real quick. Oh, it does actually produce flame. Okay, I didn't test that beforehand. But yeah, so there's this thruster element, and then there is just these nice looking turbines. Very spacious and very intricate looking. I like it. And also, just from a builder's perspective, I like these like a ton more than the normal atmospheric ones. Just as a reminder, the normal atmospheric ones are these things, right? With these, you can make so much more intricate designs. The only, like, quote-unquote problem I have with those, I suppose, is that for the small ones, for these ones, they only take off up half of a block. I would have liked it more if they would have taken just 1 block entirely. You know what I mean? But that's personal preference, I guess. And obviously, they also come in small and large, as you can see, which is pretty neat. Let me place actually one of the larger ones here. Oh, I don't have the space. Let me... There is space. Booyah! Lovely looking thing, isn't it? And no, you cannot fly through it. That would be freaking amazing, right? If you could fly through it, or if it would kill you if you flew into it. That would be kind of funny. But yeah, they're lovely. I like these a lot. They're amazing. Next up, we have pedestal control panel and pedestal button. These are neat. Come in large and small grid, as you can see. Now, placement-wise, they stick to the end of a grid. If I could nitpick, I would say it would be nice if we had variants that were centered in a block and not at the end. But again, that's just nitpicky, I suppose. But yeah, I like these from a design choice. Lovely. I think they add kind of bit of character if you need like a singular button somewhere, or just for decoration, like a control panel like this. I like them very much. The last thing we can look at is new signs. Since the last update brought us new AI stuff, it only feels fitting that we now have AI-based signs that warn us that there's AI going on. I kind of like these, you know, they add a little bit of flavor to whatever you're doing. So yeah, also the arrow sign, I guess, is a kind of a nice touch too. It doesn't really have to do anything with AI, I suppose. But yeah, lovely. So yeah, that's all that's in this free update. It's neat, especially like the thrusters. The thrusters is the best thing, and then the wheel stuff, that's amazing too. The rest of it, I mean, these are nice. The quality of life improvements are very nice. So all in all, it's a decent update. Not like groundbreaking thing like the automation ones, of course, but pretty decent. Now, let's go over to DLC land. So this thing is called the Decorative Pack number 3, and we'll start off with a new armor skin. This one is called the War-Torn Armor, and it looks pretty cool. Not gonna lie, this gives a lot of character to like if you're building like ships or ruins or something like that. These blocks, freaking amazing. You know, in comparison to like the there's a few blocks that you can use for like ruined ships, like rusted armor, for example. But I always felt like the rusted armor is almost a bit too much. You know what I mean? There's also like the what was it called? I think battered or something it's called. There's one more that looks a little bit like dented and stuff. But yeah, battered armor, there we go. That also looks interesting, but I do have to say this war-torn armor is amazing. You know, with like torn open like surfaces, cables. From like a distance, it gives you an interesting, like almost like an illusion that this is not just a texture, but this is actually, you know, like a 3D complete model. So that's pretty cool. Next up, we have a new cockpit. Now, this is only small grid, but it is a cute little chubby cockpit. Look at this thing. Let's get inside. We have 4 LCD screens that we can work with, and it looks freaking cool. I like this very much. And also, there's a little hatch here. Unfortunately, this does not open up. That would be even cooler if that thing opened up. But, you know, all in all, it's just a very, you know, standard cockpit, you might say. But I do like this. I see this cockpit mainly for, like, armored vehicles, because you can really, like, pack this thing with armor and make it look still relatively slim in, you know, comparison to other cockpits, which had, you know, if we compare it to, let's say, the standard cockpit, which has, quote unquote, almost like 2x3 blocks of just basically window that you cannot attach anything to. This one only has like these 3 surfaces here that you cannot attach anything to. Anything else you can actually just plonk stuff on, which is freaking amazing. So you can really turn this into a nice armored little, like a armored personnel carrier, or maybe even as a tank, like a tank cockpit. I can totally imagine that. So that's nice. Again, it only comes for small grid, but I mean, cockpits are pretty much always only for small grid. So, you know, that's neglectable. Next up, if you didn't like your turbines, well, you got this thing now, which I think it's called a twin blade turbine. Obviously only for large grid, and also, yeah, it blocks you in a quite wide area around it, so you cannot fly through it. It is unfortunate. Now, what is interesting, you might already see it, but this thing actually takes up a lot more space than the normal turbine does. If you look at this, the normal turbine, I think it takes 3x4, I believe the normal turbine is. Yeah. The twin blade turbine is huge. It takes up so much space. Almost an impractical level of space. You know? So, yeah. Now, what I find interesting, and maybe that's a bug, or maybe that's intentional. So, let me actually delete these 2 turrets so that we don't get confused. I just want to show you, power output wise, it's interesting. So let's place this turret here, a turbine. As you can see, it's pretty much free from obstruction, and it's quite high up. So if we go look here, at the moment it's producing 453 kilowatts, pretty much. It's going down slowly, but 450 is the output at the moment. If we place a twin blade turbine and go look that up, it only produces 220. Like half. And I don't quite understand why. It takes up like almost double the space, but gives you half the power. Doesn't really make much sense to me, honestly. I don't understand that. Maybe this is intentional, so people don't feel like this is a functional block that they're missing out. You know, if it would be a bigger turbine that produces more, then maybe people would be angry and say, hey, you cannot do that. You said you wouldn't put functional blocks behind DLC paywalls. But making it half as efficient makes no sense either. So I'm not sure what's up with this thing. We'll have to watch if this persists, but this is weird to me. But speaking of functional blocks, well, what do we have here? these are solar panels. And not just any solar panels, these are colorable solar panels and solar panel edges, angled solar panels. Interesting, isn't it? So yeah, these are fully colorable solar panels, which big plus points for that. I do have to say, I love that idea. That is freaking great. That you can just slap these solar panels on like this, and you can have them any color you want. So your solar panel build is not gonna have to be a blue baby spaceship anymore. That's lovely. And then, because of course of the angled solar panels, you're now able to make these diagonal solar panels as well, which is lovely. That is amazing. Now, of course, you might ask the same question. How are these efficiency-wise, you know, compared to normal solar panels? Now, these are at least the same size, at least the straight ones are. But what do we see if we look at their stats? Now, if we look here, they all have pretty much the same angle to the sun. I mean, it's not perfect. If it has to be perfect, they would have to be in the same position. However, if you look at this, they're the exact same power, at least the straight ones. The diagonal ones are half of that power, which I think is fair. That's a fair thing. I would, if I wanted to be like annoying, I would argue that angled solar panels is kind of a new functional block that people are now missing out. Could be argued that this should be in, or a variety of this, you know, a variety that you can put on these should be in the base game. That could be argued. Other than that, I do like the construction of these, you know, these like scaffolding in between, and that they're like at least looking the same on both sides. I mean, they're still not perfect for symmetrical builds because there's still a space below. I would like it more if they would either be centered or, you know, like full sized, but they're amazing. I like them. Next up. Ooh, spooky. It is a hollow LCD. Now that thing is freaking cool. So this behaves essentially like a normal LCD, but it projects whatever an LCD can project, like, into the air, which is freaking amazing. So you can just put some text in here, and it will just do that. You can obviously put an image in. Let's put graph. Let's put that in, shall we? Boop. Boom! And you can easily walk through it. That's amazing. 100 points to Gryffindor. No, wait, that's wrong game. Anyway, minor gripe that I have with these is the placement of these is a bit awkward for me. So you can see it's attached to the top, like to the top block. Let me actually place one of these, like so. Well, not quite like so actually, because as you can see, placement is a bit weird. So if you can see this white line here, I think this is kind of the indicator where the hologram is going to come out of. So if I can attach it to this wall easily enough, that works just fine. So yeah, you kind of have to figure out how to place this one. It's a bit weird. You can also place it on the bottom, and then it works like this, but it took me actually a while at the beginning to figure out how to perfectly place these, because instinctively I kind of wanted to place it like this, but no, wait, now I'm doing it wrong actually. Like this, and then it was at the floor. It took me a while to figure it out, but it's a freaking amazing block, and I can foresee that this will give you so many new options in builds. So that's amazing. Next up, we have more LCD stuff. Let's take these all together. There's this, I think it's called an inset LCD. Yeah, inset LCD. So it's an LCD that's just part of a big block, which has also some nice details just all around the block itself. which I always appreciate, and then just a normal LCD in it. Then there's also a variant that is a triangle and a round LCD. Well, a quarter circle LCD, a rounded curved LCD. Well, if they talk about curved monitors, that's not what they're talking about. That's curved in the wrong direction, but you know what I mean. So yeah, just functions like a normal LCD would. Now, actually, I haven't checked this. I don't know if it... Yeah, it looks actually kind of fine. I had the fear that it would like stretch the image in a weird way, but I think it's fine for the most part, right? If we look at this, let's check out a... Yeah, blueprint looks fine too. Yeah, I think they look fine. So yeah, which this obviously allows now for like interesting like pillars that are LCD, like LCD pillars, which is absolutely lovely. I think that's cool. Very cool indeed. Next up we have a new variant of the beacon. Now this, in comparison to its little base game brother, looks a lot more sleek, a lot more like modern and like high-tech almost. And it is something that I've realized with a lot of blocks, like especially older blocks, that they don't look like they attach to your ship because they have weird like angles to them. They just look like they're popped onto your ship and that's it. They don't look like they belong there. This beacon, even though this beacon has like, let's say, a disadvantage in that it can only be placed one way. You can only attach the base plate to the ship. But that makes it in turn look a lot more like integral, like an integral part of your ship. And it's a cool ass beacon. I think it's very nicely designed, you know, with interesting components all around. So yeah, lovely little alternative skin. Next, there's a series of blocks. Actually, the LCD is also part of that series. It's inset blocks. So there's a lot of them. There's an inset couch, you know, just like, yeah, I cannot really show you it this way, but you're sitting on the couch. And with all of these, there's like sometimes a little bit of like more interesting textures around the back and the side. For example, this couch has also like a terrarium at the side, which is neat. I like it when blocks have like alternative uses, because you could just place this into a wall with this side facing outwards, and then you have another block that you can use for decoration, which gives you a little bit more variety. That's nice. Next, there's also an inlaid bed with storage, as some of the beds do have. And if we go around it, there's also more interesting textures. And then for the bed, there's also varieties which will give you like a bed you can actually see through like this, and you can unfortunately not fly through this, which I do have to say is a bit infuriating, because I thought I could then fly through this, but you can't. And then there's the same thing but with a closed wall as well. You know, just nice variants to hide beds away into the walls and make them look a bit more integrated with the ship. Then there is an inset button panel with 3 buttons right here. And if you just look at the details, it's very nicely designed. There's actually 2 more screens over this side as well. And then at the back, there's just, you know, normal textures here. Next one is a, I think it's called an entertainment corner. Now, this thing is a sound block. So you can play sounds with this. As you can see, there's speakers in here. And there's also lots of like cool little decorations, like a video game console, some games, a plushie, books, you know, mugs. Very nice. Looks very cool. I can totally imagine putting this into like an officer's quarter, you know, making this some sort of like home entertainment system. That's pretty cool looking. Next, there's an inlaid, or an inset library, I think it's called. An inset bookshelf, it's called. Again, with the plushie, the spider plushie, and the Space Engineers plushie. Some books, storage as well. Then some more mocks on this side. And yeah, next up, we have an aquarium. Isn't this amazing? Look at this little thing. That will bring some life to your quarters, right? They should make more like interactive blocks, like interactive displays like that, where things are moving around, because that will make your ship feel so much more alive, won't it? It's pretty freaking fantastic. Only thing that would be better, I mean, again, nitpicking, if you could like change what's inside, you know, if you had like a few preset groups of fish, that would be freaking amazing. But yeah. Next up, we have the inset kitchen, which is, you know, just the variant of the kitchen with cosmic coffee and just the kitchen unit itself, you know. And here you actually have another side to it with a refrigerator, which is just a little inventory. It also has a medical kit, but this is actually just an inventory as well. But yeah, looks nice. So again, you have variations you can put into the walls depending on which side you take to the front. It will look different, and you can also use them as corners in this way, which is cool. Then there's an inset cryopod. I like that as well because it's a bit more like hidden away, and the normal cryopods just sometimes, depending on how you design your ship, they will stick out like a sore thumb. These will be a bit more hidden away. The only thing that I do have to say is it's the same issue I have with the toilets, you know, if you look at these ones, because they also have like this entrance thing. Only thing that would be better if we could close this with a door, if there was an integrated door in this. That would be the only thing I would love for this to have. But yeah, then there is the conveyor is at the back, so it's also very interestingly like squared away back here. It's a cool new addition. Again, gives you a bit more variety on how you design your ship. Then we have a corner medical room. Now, in theory, the normal medical room is also a corner room. However, there's some differences. Let me bring up the normal medical... Oh, actually, now I just brought up the new corner room. There it is. That's the normal medical room. Now, there's a few differences. For one, the character model changer is still on this side, but it's now like turned inwards, which is nice because this one always felt like a bit disjointed, because this looks this way, this thing looks that way, and then you have these parts which are always like almost like disconnected. And again, as with a lot of the old blocks, it doesn't feel like integrated to your ship, because there's these tiny little like crevices which are not here, because as you can see, it fits snugly with the wall, which a lot of these blocks now in this DLC actually do that, which gives you, yeah, more this feeling of actually being part of the ship and not just placed there. And of course the detail again are amazing. At least I feel they're amazing. So yeah, lovely little option. Now, also interesting, the conveyor port. Now, the normal medical room has a conveyor port at the bottom and at the top. This one is a little bit different. If you can see, it has a corner, like in this corner, it has two of these conveyors. It does not have one at the bottom or the top. So you have to maybe get a bit more creative with the conveyor ports. But all in all, pretty neat looking thing. Next, we have scaffolding. And this is weird for me because, like, opposite to most other blocks, you can actually totally traverse through the scaffolding as you would imagine it would work. You know what I mean? And there's just a ton of different scaffolding blocks. There's scaffolding ladders. There's scaffolding like catwalks. So cool. I think I was talking about scaffolding a few episodes ago, wasn't I? Because a lot of people use just normal blocks that they don't finish welding, and now we have this. And this is probably as unstable as not welding your blocks, because it's just basically made out of small tubes and a few girders, and that's it. So yeah, they will get destroyed quickly. However, as I just said before, the hitboxes of these are actually very accurately, or at least more accurate than you would think. Now, they're still a little bit bigger than they actually are, as you can see. But they're pretty well done, hitbox-wise. Now, for example, the sides here, they are actually completely solid. Now, it's weird. For example, here I can walk through, so you can shoot through this way, but not this way. It's just a bit weird. I don't 100% understand the decision making here, or if there was a problem making them completely like traversable in this way. I don't know. It's something that I you know, while testing this, it's something that came up to me. It's kind of weird that you can shoot through some of these parts and others you can't. You know what I mean? It's just strange. Next up, we have a bit more decorative elements. We had crates beforehand. Now we actually got the barrels. Now these are pretty much just the same as... let me just get them out real quick. They're, I think, under this here. Yes. They're basically the same as these. They have, storage-wise, exactly the same. They have 1,000 liters of storage. Well, per unit. So these have actually 3,000. They don't have a conveyor port. And now you also have these variants, which are stackable. That's cool, because that gives, if you make like a warehouse, that would be a very nice decoration for the warehouse, right? And then there is these storage boxes, which first I thought, what do we do with these? I mean, they kind of look like a coffin, but they're nice. And then I discovered you can actually open them up. Isn't that cool? Now, again, minor little detail. If you put something in this storage box, it's also in this one. So it's a combined box. But yeah, I do like these a lot. So this little container thing, again, it doesn't have a conveyor port, but I think that's fine. And also these things, the crate and these barrels, they essentially, well, the crates only come in large ship. The stacked barrels only come in large ship. The 3 barrels do. The 1 barrel actually comes in small ship form. And you may all already have seen it. There's a variant of the barrel called an explosive barrel. Now, this does not maybe do what you think it does. Or maybe if you know space engineers, you know what this is. So if you just shoot at it, it does explode, but it doesn't deal any damage. You can see I've tested this already. So what this is just a alternative skin warhead, essentially. So if you arm the warhead, that is when the barrel explodes. I can mostly see this being used in scenarios. I don't know if anybody in their right mind would place an explosive barrel that is armed into their ship, but, you know. One of the interesting things about the explosive barrel is that it also comes in small grid, which immediately thought, to me, the thought came to mind that, hey, couldn't we make neat-looking bombs with this? And the answer is yes and no. Yes, you probably can make interesting looking bombs, because you can also attach pretty much blocks everywhere. Well, everywhere except the top, where I would want to add bombs, to be honest. So it's a bit weird for me where they decide that you can attach things and where not. At the bottom, again, you can add stuff to here, but not the top. I guess they kind of wanted to maybe make it so you cannot like actively obscure this the console thing here. But then again, if you're creating a weapon, you might want to do that. I don't know. It's weird. But yeah, I think it's a neat little addition, this explosive barrel. And that is it. That's the whole DLC. And yes, It's freaking massive, as you can see. It's a gazillion blocks. A lot of them very cool. Some of them pretty functional. Yeah, amazing. So what do I think of it? Alright, so the update, the free part, not as monumental, but pretty decent. I especially like, again, the thrusters and the wheel updates are my favorite on this one, and all in all, pretty cool. The DLC, now the DLC, at least cost-wise, for me was not much more than the normal DLC, if memory serves right. It's about like $5, $6, something along those lines. And for that amount of money, the amount of content that you get, in my opinion, is pretty freaking great. The only criticism that I have is essentially that I think there's a few blocks that I think could be part of the update, or rather should have variants added in the future. I'm talking mainly about the angled solar panel, like a variant for this here, and also actually the scaffolding. I feel scaffolding should be part of the base game. That's just personal opinion, I think. Other than that, the only other weird thing for me is this thing, that this produces basically half the energy that the normal turbine does, but like it's double the size of it. Although I do have to be fair, this turbine looks a lot more functional than this twin blade one. Maybe that's just me, but yeah. Alright, so that is the DLC and the update in a nutshell, I guess, my personal opinion on it. So next time we're gonna go back to our normal gameplay, and hopefully we'll be able to incorporate some of these things into our next build. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time, and take care.